Hello, I'm Tyler Ferrero, and you're watching Fantasy Talk. And today I will be talking about fantasy football for Week 3 and 4 of the NFL season. To start things off, I'm going to talk about my sleeper picks for Week 3 and 4 of the NFL season. My first sleeper is Eddie Royal, who plays for the San Diego Chargers. In the first 2 weeks, he has a total of 5 touchdowns. And this week, he's going versus the Tennessee Titans, who are not known for their defense, and is owned in only 18.4% of ESPN fantasy leagues. My second sleeper this week is James Starks, running back for the Green Bay Packers. Last week, he replaced starting running back Eddie Lacy after he got a concussion against the Washington Redskins, and James Starks is owned in only 6.2% of fantasy leagues. And my third sleeper this week is Julian Edelman, wide receiver for the New England Patriots, who is Tom Brady's top target right now and is owned in only 51.4% of ESPN fantasy leagues. One of my deeper sleeper picks this week is wide receiver Marlon Brown for the Baltimore Ravens, who right now is Joe Flacco's second option after Jacoby Jones got injured Week 1 against the Denver Broncos. And right now, he is owned in only 4.9% of ESPN fantasy leagues. And for my fourth sleeper pick this week is tight end Charles Clay for the Miami Dolphins, who became their starting tight end after Dustin Keller's horrific knee injury during the preseason. And right now, Charles Clay is only owned in 0.8% of ESPN fantasy leagues. So if you don't have a very good option at tight end this week, look at adding Charles Clay. My fifth and final sleeper pick this week is quarterback Terrell Pryor for the Oakland Raiders, who this week is going up against the Denver Broncos, so expect that game to be a blowout where Terrell Pryor will have to throw a lot more than he is used to, which could end up with a lot of interceptions, but could also end up with yards and touchdowns. And don't forget, he is also one of the best running quarterbacks in the NFL, which helps his fantasy football numbers, and he is owned in only 22.4% of fantasy football leagues. So if in the next few weeks your quarterback gets injured or has a bye week or is playing poorly, look to add him to your starting lineup. For the next part of the show, I want to be doing the Love and Hate segment, where I talk about the players who I think will play very well or very poorly for Week 3 in the NFL season. First player I love this week is Marshawn Lynch, who put up 30 fantasy points against the San Francisco 49ers, who have one of the toughest defenses in the NFL. And this week is going up against probably the worst team in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars, so I expect him to have a huge day. The second player I love this week is Megatron, also known as Calvin Johnson, the best receiver in the NFL. And a big reason I expect him to have a huge day Sunday is because he's going against the Washington Redskins, who have one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. The fourth player I love this week is Julian Edelman, and as you heard before, he is also on my sleepers list and has quickly become Tom Brady's favorite target. So in the next 2 weeks, I expect him to have 2 huge games. The fifth and final player I love this week is running back Doug Martin from my favorite team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this week they're going up against the New England Patriots, who don't have a very strong run defense. So I expect him to get plenty of touches and hopefully plenty of fantasy points. For the next part of this segment, I'm going to be talking about the players who I hate for the upcoming weeks in the NFL season. The first player I hate this week is running back Maurice Jones-Drew for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the main reason I hate him is because he's going up against the best defense in the NFL in the Seattle Seahawks. So I don't expect him to have a very good week. The next player I hate is wide receiver Roddy White for the Atlanta Falcons. And lately he's had a high ankle sprain, so he has struggled for the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, and I expect the same next week as he goes up against the Miami Dolphins defense, who has been somewhat of a surprise this year. So if I owned Roddy White, I would probably bench him this week. And the third player I hate this week is wide receiver Greg Jennings for the Minnesota Vikings. And the main reason is he's going up against Joe Hayden, who has become probably the second best lockdown corner in the NFL behind Darrelle Revis, and also Christian Ponder is his quarterback. And let's face it, he is no Tom Brady or Drew Brees. And for the fourth player I hate this week is running back Ray Rice for the Baltimore Ravens. And the only reason I hate him is because last week he got injured. So this week, Bernard Pierce, his backup, will probably get most of the carries. And the fifth and final player I hate this week is running back Eddie Lacy for the Green Bay Packers. And I don't know if you've heard lately, but he got a concussion last week against the Washington Redskins. So if I had him, I'd probably try to replace him with backup running back James Starks. That's all for this week on Fantasy Talk. I'm Tyler Ferrero. Thanks for watching.